This time on Low Boost, we built our own tire changing machine out of a Harbor Freight tire changing stand. Although the Harbor Freight manual tire changing stand is a cheap and easy way to change your tires, I really don't recommend changing chrome wheels, and they even really tell you in the instructions not to change, you know, alloy or chrome wheels, just to stick with the steel ones with hubcaps, because this can really scratch. So we're gonna make a couple of modifications to this to really make it easy to change the nicest Corvette wheels that we could throw on the C5. With the upcoming track season, with the new C5 Corvette that we have, we're gonna have to get a lot of different tires, and we're probably gonna be swapping them out more often than not. And as great as it is to have a buddy that has a shop that will swap tires, the absolute last thing they want to do is swap out tires for you. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take a Harbor Freight manual tire changing stand, but we're going to make some modifications to it to make it safe to change even the biggest 20-inch chrome wheels that you can with some steel that we got from the local shop. And after watching a couple DIY videos, we're going to hook it up to a real duckbill, and this is going to be a real tire changing stand. If you're into any kind of sports car, racing, drag racing, you know, tuning your car. Yes, can I help you?
Do you think, what's your name?
LS projects, custom resto mods, or anything involved in cars, make sure you guys hit the subscribe button. I have over 60 videos in my library currently, and I'm adding more every single week around all the builds that I do with my dad and some of my friends. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. I got this duckbill on Amazon for $13. This is actually what's going to prevent the wheel from getting scratched as I use the tire iron around it. First thing we're going to do is we're going to make a 2.5-inch cylinder sleeve to go over top of this, so we have an arm that comes out. So we already measured this, fits perfectly over top of that. And then we grinded out some areas here, and we're going to weld these two together to make sure it's nice and plumb. And then this arm is going to stick out so we can have an arm that comes down to protect the wheel. So now we take this, and this actually slides over that, and then now we have an arm. So we're gonna make another arm to go down and slide across this to hold everything together. So we got this all welded up. This actually slides over that, so this can go up and down. We're gonna put a post through it. We just gotta drill a hole here and on the other side and weld a nut to it. That way we can tighten it down for what we need. Okay, so now we have our arm with these welded on nuts, welded onto this, so threaded through to kind of hold it in place. And now we'll have something to work around the tire. We just have to weld this plate to the bottom of this. And then we have the duckbill on it, and that should suffice. So it's not a full-on, we would have to break the bead. We're gonna figure out what we gotta do for this here to go over it. This comes off. I think I'm gonna get a piece of plywood with carpet so it covers this nice. Then this threads on and locks everything in place. And then this slides over. And then this can actually be adjusted to wherever we need it to be on the tire, like that. So this gets tightened in like that. We go right to the spot after the bead's obviously broken, and then we can use the tire iron over and swing it around the whole thing. So we'll finish it all up, paint it, make it look nice, and then we'll do a demonstration of how it looks. For now, we just cut these two things off because then it actually perfectly fits in this specific wheel. You can adjust it later for what we want to do. And that tightens down over top of it, and we can throw the slider on top. However, we got to break the bead on this first. We're going to do that, and then we'll take the tire off. So everything's on. So all I'm going to do now is take it apart and prime it and paint it so it'll look nice and pretty. When you're working in a garage, painting or welding, the last thing you want to do is get stuff on your nice car. Now, not only do I have a car cover for the C5, but I got these things called car condoms. So they go over the cover of the car. That way you don't have to worry about getting paint or anything else on the actual car cover or the car itself. It's an extra layer of protection. So don't be a fool, wrap your tool and wrap your car with some car condoms. I'll put a link in the description below. You can get them on Amazon. Alright, so everything's all on and painted. We broke the bead already with the different bead breaking machine, which I'm not a big fan of. I might have to modify it or modify this one to break it safely because it scratched this wheel in one spot, but this one's already bent. This one's kind of shot, so I'm going to use this one as one to practice on. And then as we get better to design a better bead breaker, it'll work. But I think this is going to work out just fine. So I'm going to go over and demonstrate exactly how we're going to do this. So now we've broken the lip on this just to get it over. I'm going to try to follow it this way. I'm going to be real honest with you here. This video clip makes it look really easy to take off, but it took me maybe 15 to 20 minutes to kind of figure out exactly how to do this the right way. And not having the base bolted to the ground really made it difficult because I had almost no leverage to get the top piece off. To make it even worse, this tire had fix-a-flat in it, which made it even harder to get the tire off because as it kept spinning around the base as I tried pulling it off because it just didn't have a good seal. You can see the tire turning, but the wheel not. And that's not the way this thing is supposed to come off, so I needed some help. So I had to do it off camera with the help of my dad and my mom, believe it or not, to get it off. With the base not being bolted to the ground, you lose all leverage that you have. But some of the problems with this is just not, it's still got a little bit of play here, so I got to do some reinforcements to get it to stay in one spot on the top and the bottom, but it will work. I used a wheel that was pretty much shot, and believe it or not, the bead breaker probably did more damage to it than this did because the duckbill, as long as you keep this tire iron on the actual duckbill itself, as you turn it, it won't be so bad. But this tire was sitting outside and had corrosion and mud inside of it because the wheel is bent. And it just had like a really greasy paste. The tire was turning as we were taking it off, so it made it a lot more difficult. But it did work. I do want to kind of perfect this a little bit more before I use it on good wheels, but I think it will work. At least to hold us over until we can save up to get an actual tire machine, which I still think at the end of the day is the way to go. But if you know how to weld a little bit and you can spend some extra bucks, this will get stuff off. Smaller wheels than 18s will be much easier, I think, because if you have bigger sidewall. This is a low profile tire, so I think smaller tires will be better. Now, I'm not the first person to try this on YouTube, but I wanted to be practical. Anybody who's a real car enthusiast is not going to be really doing steel wheel tire changing. You're going to have low profile tires on 18-inch wheels, 17-inch wheels, even 19s. So I wanted to really give a real demonstration on if this actually could work for somebody like me who has 18-inch wheels and tires. After I had some time to think about it and kind of go over what I did wrong on the machine, the biggest thing is not bolting the sucker to the ground. I really should have did that from the get-go. In addition to not only having to put my foot down to hold it in place, I couldn't get the leverage that I wanted to because I had to stay so close to it, so I really couldn't turn it over. The other problem that I had with the bent wheel was that sludgy stuff was probably fix-a-flat, and it kept on turning the wheel or turning the tire as I was trying to get it off, where it should stay because the bead usually locks it in place pretty well. So I had a difficult time with that. Outside of those two things and the fact that the base kind of wobbled a little bit, and I'm going to do a follow-up video on that so I can actually get the base to stop wiggling a little bit. That'll actually hold it in place and rotate easier, and maybe use like a polyurethane bushing to get it to rotate easier. Would probably be the best way to have everything go. But personally, those are 275 40 18s, and the tires I'm going to be putting on are 275 35 18s. They're going to be difficult to put on. I think if it's 17s, it's going to be a lot easier with a little bit of a thicker sidewall. As far as bead breaking goes, it was harder to break the bead on the Harbor Freight bead breaker, and I'm probably going to have to try to modify that to get it to work. But if you have a little bit of know-how and you have a wheel like that, a dummy one where you don't mind messing up a little bit, it's going to work, and I think you could figure it out. So let me know what you guys think. I will probably end up doing a follow-up video with this to see how it all works out after I perfect it. This was just kind of a dry run. But let me know what you guys think. Hopefully this was helpful. And, if you guys want to try doing it on your track wheels, it could work for you. So thank you very much, and I'll catch you in the next one.